What's going on, everybody? I hope you're enjoying my draft content here. We got the NFC North draft grades here. Just a few quick ground rules. I'm grading this on a pretty tough scale here, so I don't want to see any comments about me hating a pick because I gave it a C. A C basically just means thought it was a solid pick. I was fine with it. Just like my Madden roster, I do this so that when a pick gets an A, it really sets itself apart, and you know that I was really high on that pick. The other thing, obviously, everyone has different opinions on these prospects. These grades are going off of my own draft board. You'll see under each player's name the grade I had on the player going into the draft. So let's dive in here with the Chicago Bears kicking it off. Overall, really liked this Bears draft. I gave it an A-. You got some impact players right off the bat. Mid-rounds, they loaded up on some high potential defenders. So in the first round, they take Roquan Smith. They had a big offseason for the offense, but now they get a leader for this defense. They get a face of the defense, one of my favorite players, if not my absolute favorite player in the entire class with the 8th pick. He's just basically a spark plug for this defense. I think Roquan is going to be great. And then 2 second-round picks here that were just home runs. So James Daniels, he's going to play guard with Whitehead there, but he's super athletic for a guard and was uber productive at Iowa. Just a young player, junior, to beef up that offensive line and the offense. And again, beefing up that offense, Anthony Miller. They don't even need this guy. They have a pretty good receiving core, but Anthony Miller, my favorite receiver in this class that was going to go in the first or second round here, I hesitantly compare him to Antonio Brown. Very similar background entering the league and similar college tape. Amazing hands. He's only 5'10", 5'11", but he's super quick. He's fast. He's going to be a great target for Mitch Trubisky, who I'm expecting a huge bounce back year from. And then in the mid rounds here, 4th round. Now this one was a bit of a reach for me. Joel Egan-Buniwe. Watch this game. Super raw athlete. He's going to play stand-up linebacker. Most of the time I would give this pick a C, but, in the 4th round here, there was a lot of good players available. I'm fine with taking the raw athlete, but if he reaches his ceiling, whose spot is he going to take? Roquan Smith or Danny Trevathan? So, I wasn't in love with that pick, but then I did like the Bilal Nichols pick and Kylie Fitz picks. Getting later into the draft here, you're taking similar profile players. So overall, I really like the approach from the Bears here to just get younger and more athletic on that defense. Bilal Nichols is an athletic defensive lineman from Delaware. He could take a year or two, but could become a starting defensive tackle. And then Kylie Fitz is just a project edge rusher with a lot of burst and a really good first step who's going to have to polish that game up. And then in the 7th round, Jayvon Whims, just a total value pick here for the Bears. They get another really good receiver. This receiving core has potential to be one of the better ones in the league next year, factoring in Trey Burton as well. Taylor Gabriel was signed, but Whims, really like this player. Showed he can go up and get the ball. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's a bigger guy, 6'2", 6'3", something like that, but played for a run-first offense, so didn't get a ton of opportunities, but just a guy that could really step in and be a wide receiver too on the outside right away, given an injury, and then long-term could become the complement to Allen Robinson in this offense. With Anthony Miller in the mix there too, in the slot and the outside, it's just a really good group of offensive weapons. So overall, really liked this Bears draft, gave it an A-. So then moving on to the Lions here, not quite as exciting, gave it a B. I really like the Frank Ragnow pick in the 1st round. This is a team that just can't run the ball over the last decade. Frank Ragnow going to really impact that run game right away. Grew up in my hometown of Chanhassen, Minnesota, by the way. And then 2nd round, I gave this pick a D. Kerryon Johnson, and I just talked about this in my best and worst picks of the draft. Kerryon's a fine player. I compare him to Jerick McKinnon as far as his play style goes, but Darius Geis was sitting there. You took Ragnow in the 1st. You want to just become a more physical team between the tackles, and Darius Geis was the obvious pick there for me if that's what you want to do. And even after that, Kalen Ballage. Kerryon Johnson's more of a receiving back, as outside zone runner. I don't necessarily see him being a great between the tackles runner. So given the potential this pick had, I really did not like this pick. And then third round, Tracy Walker. They get an athletic, versatile safety. This Detroit team has a lot of guys like this. I think of Quandre Diggs and Tavon Wilson. Love Glover Quinn, but he's getting older. So you get a good safety here. Was it the best value? They thought so. I would disagree. Fourth round, great pick here. Detroit can never have enough good D tackles. This depth chart really is pretty loaded now with a bunch of bodies on the inside there. And they get a really high upside guy here in Deshaun Hand. You pair him with his former teammate, Ashawn Robinson. So I like that pick. And then sticking with the theme of trying to get tougher here, it was pretty much their entire draft went towards beefing up, trying to run and play better defense. And that's really what these grades are about, guys, by the way, is trying to figure out what these teams want to do. I can sit here and assess these picks based on my board, but what's really important is to assess what these guys want to do, what direction they want to take the team. That's what I'm most interested in. But we'll keep grading this thing out here. Fifth round. This was a total steal. This was in my best picks video. Pretty much anything in green is going to have that in my best picks video. But Crosby, just a well-vetted left tackle at Oregon. All he did for the last 3-4 years at Oregon was protect the passer. It's not like he's undersized or unathletic. I really didn't understand why he fell so far. He's clearly missing something there. And then they list him at a guard. I think that's mainly just because they do have Rick Wagner, and that's about the 20th time I've called him Wick Wagner, so I'm just going to always call him Wick Wagner on this channel now. And then Taylor Decker at left tackle. So he's probably going to come in and start on the interior of this line right away. So between Glasgow and Crosby here, this could really be one of the better offensive lines in the NFL next year. They still got TJ Lang there as well. And then you get a fullback who I actually really like here in the 7th round. Best fullback in the class. Actually ended up watching a lot of San Diego State last year, and this guy is built almost like a tight end, but he's just a monster blocking. Really contributed to the success of Rashad Penny and Donnell Pumphrey over the last few years there for San Diego State. Then we got Green Bay here. They had, I think, the most picks of any team coming into the draft. I'm not sure if they ended that way, but I loved this Packers draft. A lot of green on this board for the Packers. So first round, they trade down, and Derwin James was there. That would have been one of the best picks in this draft, I think, but it is really hard to refuse that future first round pick. Those just don't come around very often. So kind of a too good to refuse trade down for the Packers, even if they like Derwin James. But they get a corner they really like. They had to trade back up to do that. The trade back up, I wasn't huge on. I thought there was still a lot of value at corner, as we saw with Josh Jackson slipping to the 2nd round here. But overall, I think this would have been a C grade for Jair Alexander, but the fact that he comes with that extra first round pick in next year's draft definitely boosts that up. And then in the 2nd round, you get a corner I liked better than Jair Alexander. He's probably going to play and start in the nickel for this team. I could actually see Jair Alexander being the 4th corner here with Kevin King and Tramon Williams on the outside there. Jair Alexander sits and learns. But Josh Jackson's more ready to play right now, in my opinion, and in the nickel, where he's going to thrive as a run defender. I liken him to Josh Norman. Just crazy ball skills, probably better in zone coverage than man. But I don't think the Packers could have turned their card in any sooner to get another first-round caliber corner on a team that was rolling out undrafted free agent after undrafted free agent last year at the position. And then 3rd round, I love the direction here for the Packers. They move up to get Oren Burks. Now, the value was iffy for me. I mean, this is just a dude like maybe 4 or 5 players in this class that were probably engineered in a lab somewhere in Germany. Crazy, crazy athlete for a linebacker for 6'3", 235. This guy moves like a cornerback. But his tape's very raw, doesn't always show the agility that he has in his drills on tape. But this gives them the chance to take Blake Martinez off the field on 3rd downs, where he really struggled last year, Blake Martinez, in coverage on tight ends and crossing routes, on slot receivers and stuff. It gives the Packers a chance to have that role filled, which when you can fill a role like that in the mid rounds here, that's always good. 4th round, I've been very loud about this pick right here. This is one of the 4 or 5 best picks in the entire draft, in my opinion. J'Mon Moore is a guy I was incredibly high on. 6'3", 210, runs like a deer, has some of the better hands in this class. He's a little raw with his route tree, but what better team to put him on and to work with Aaron Rodgers and this offense. I think this is a grand slam pick. He's going to start right away, and I'm telling fantasy players to take Jayvon Moore even in like redraft leagues, because I think he's going to be the most productive receiver in this class, especially in the first year. And long term, I would not be the least bit surprised if he ends up being the best receiver in this entire class, just because of the landing spot. But I liked him if he went anywhere else too. And then the 5th round, in a draft where offensive tackles were really hard to find. This was not a good class. I had about 6 guys that I said could probably start at tackle day one, and Cole Madison was one of those guys. Very similar player on my board to Tyrell Crosby, who we just talked about, just a productive starting left tackle for a high volume offense for multiple years. This pick reminds me a lot of when this team took David Bakhtiari a few years, who's now arguably the best pass protecting left tackle in the game. So definitely a pick to keep an eye on there. He might start at guard right away, but can kick out to tackle in a pinch. So that was a total steal. And then 172, they take a punter. Okay, address special teams. I didn't do any assessment of kickers or punters. And then 174, this was a really interesting pick. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, super raw guy. He's got pretty good hands to go up and get it, which you like to see for 6'4". But obviously the 4.37 40 time at that height is what you're intrigued by. I was much higher on the guy they actually took next, Equanimeous St. Brown. So this team clearly wanted to address this receiver position and get bigger, faster, stronger, and they did just that. They took 2 of my favorite receivers in this class. Equanimeous St. Brown, I had a 2nd round grade on. Not sure what I was missing entirely. I was obviously going to say he's raw, but he did create a lot of separation and showed some good route running in college. I don't think he has bad hands. 4.48 speed at 6'5", was an elite prospect coming out. He's a smart guy. I could totally see Equanimeous St. Brown sharing an identical assessment that I had of Jayvon Moore and becoming the best receiver in this class. I thought when I did my Packers 7-round mock, I took Equanimeous St. Brown in the 2nd round and said he could become AJ Green. So to get that in the 6th round, that potential, I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's a 6th round pick here. Let's be real, but this is about as high of a potential pick in the 6th round as you're ever going to see to pair this athlete with Aaron Rodgers. And then the 7th round, kind of uneventful here for the Packers. 3 picks. They take James Looney, who's a really athletic guy at his size, but has to learn and grow. They take a long snapper, and then an edge rusher who wasn't on my draft board. A pretty athletic guy, pretty raw, may or may not make the team. So that got a little long, but the Packers get an A for this draft. The first draft for the new GM, Brian Gutekunst, was a really good one. So then the last one here, Vikings. Solid draft, I thought. You know, the Mike Hughes pick I liked. I'm not high on Trey Waynes or Mackenzie Alexander. Definitely a hole on this defense, as we saw the Eagles exploiting that in the NFC Championship game. So they take a good corner. I think he could start in the nickel or start on the outside. It's basically going to be a 3-man competition for 2 jobs. I would actually bet that Jaire Alexander ends up winning, Mackenzie Alexander ends up winning the nickel job. Mike Hughes beats out Trey Waynes, and Trey Waynes can take a seat and play in dime packages. So the value was good. I had a 1st, 2nd round grade on Mike Hughes. That's exactly where he went. Really, their first 3 picks fell right in the range of where I thought they'd go. Brian O'Neill, basically a project tackle, converted tight end, super athletic dude, but I want to see him lose some of that speed and put on weight and strength. I don't see him starting barring injury for this team, but it is a team that is basically just a collection of dudes on that line. No one really stands out to me. No really good athletes on that offensive line, so this gives them that potential down the road, but doesn't really help them right now. And the same thing can kind of be said for Jalen Holmes. This is an identical situation for what this team did with Danielle Hunter. Take a raw, young edge rusher out of a major conference, let Coach Zimmer see what he can do. Liked this pick a lot. You know, this team hasn't decided yet if they want to pay Danielle Hunter. If they think they can turn Jalen Holmes into Danielle Hunter in a year, then we might see Danielle Hunter hit the free agent market for this team, who doesn't have a ton of cap space moving forward after that big Kirk Cousins deal. And then 5th round, they take tight end Tyler Conklin. I see him as a career number 3 tight end. He'll block a little bit, he'll catch a little bit, but just, you know, basically always going to be crippled by that athleticism. I think of like a Richard Rodgers. They move up and get a kicker, which has been a problem for this team. It was improved last year, but, you know, going back to the Blair Walsh struggles, this team's needed a kicker, so that was probably a good move. And then the 6th round, this was one of the steals of the draft. You know, when they took Mike Hughes, there was not a lot of guard talent left, especially knowing they had to wait till 62 to pick again. And up until the 6th round here, they still didn't have a starting guard. They really, really don't. If you look at their depth chart, they got nobody. And then they take a total steal in Colby Gossett, who's just a nasty finisher, smart guy. He's going to start right away for this team. That was definitely one of the 10 best picks in the entire draft. Then they take another raw edge rusher. Same concept with Jalen Holmes here. Ada Runa is much more raw, but maybe even more athletic than Jalen Holmes. And then a linebacker I didn't evaluate in the 7th round, but that is a hole for this team, sort of that 4th, 5th linebacker on that depth chart. So that wraps up my NFC North grades. We're going to move east and do the NFC East next. Like the video if you enjoyed, guys. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at TFG_football for all your football talk, and then do check out my Patreon if you want to support me and the channel. You know, even just $1 goes longer than you know towards inspiring me to continue to make good content on this channel and get on to editing those rosters. So cheers everyone, we'll see you guys for the next video here pretty soon. Peace out.